Good morning, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well this morning. There's going to be another great day, and a great day for conquest, a great day for controlling yourself, great day for controlling things around you, and being dominion over things, as the Lord wanted us to be. So, I'm glad that you guys are joining us. Hope you guys are doing well again. Thank you for all the subscriptions, donations, comments. I got a bunch more that I'm doing and kind of going through them. Some great topics. We're covered probably for the next couple of months on topics, so I appreciate that a great deal. And please keep coming with ideas and thoughts. And I don't, like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm kind of giving you my opinion on things after 61 years of living and going through some of this stuff. And hopefully you guys can kind of use that for something to kind of maybe open up a box or a thought pattern that may change the way you're thinking right now. So, all right, let me see if there's anyone in the comments that we're gonna do some topics like flatlining. Bryce Warner said like jumping into a swimming pool. I like that. We'll talk about that a little bit. Rapid oxidation, same with the seed, so information channel get like ripe avocado being opened up. I like that. We'll talk about that a little bit too, and one of our videos coming up. So, all right. Anyway, anything else I want to talk about? HVD 4 talked about weightlifting, stored energy. I think it's great. We just had a video on that, weightlifting. I think it's wonderful to do. At least as you get older, you can do smaller weights, more repetition, but I think it's a good idea. Okay, so this topic, we're going to talk about humans, and it's interesting. I think Inner Tuition, shout out to you, Inner Tuition, and I also want to do my China friend. I cannot read Chinese, but I will shout out to my China friend. And hopefully you can kind of understand I'm talking about you. He talked about the same type of thing about humans. Short-term pleasure compared to long-term pain. So we'll talk about that in a second. Humans, on semen retention. So he spelled humans, Inner Tuition, H-U-E. And that hue means color. So let's talk about this a little bit here. And we're talking about color. We're kind of talking about energy levels. So we talk about the spectrum of colors, we talk about the energy levels. And so obviously human beings have a certain energy level. Now, as you're walking around, as you're talking to people, you are giving off a certain energy. You're emitting energy. Now, you may not realize it. Other people will notice it. And again, today I see many examples of people, acting a lot nicer. Girls coming up, sitting by you, talking with you, asking you about yourself, all these type of things. And they're in their 20s, and I'm 61. I'm 40 years older than you guys are. And you're talking to me, and almost like it's like there's a draw energy. And like I said, in my case, it's very flattering. But it's something I noticed because it wasn't happening for many, many years like that before I got married. It really wasn't happening. And so I did not feel that sort of reaction from others. So something has changed, and this is why I fully believe it's the retention and keeping the energy you have with you. Because once again, the colors of the human person, the energy levels they have are different. Some people you talk about walking around, they look like zombies. They have no energy level. They have no spirit to them. You can see right through them. Now, maybe it's because they're on something. Who knows? Maybe they're depleted totally. We don't know the reason for a lot of the things happening, but they don't have that spirit. They don't have that spunk, that energy, that warrior-like mentality, that beast in the male situation. They don't have that. And you can tell then that person basically is lost their energy. Now, why is that the case? Well, I know that my China friend was talking about this a little bit, and this is kind of plays into the human thing that Inner Tuition was talking about as well. When you're talking about decisions you have to make, we make a lot of decisions as we go through life. A lot of you guys in the 20s, you're making decisions, that are going to affect you for 34 years down the line. Obviously, retention is one of those things. Now, as other people have talked about, moderation is always the key. However, the key part of this is, what is your goal? What are you getting out of this? And this is where it comes back down to the the type of energy you have in your system. Where are you at when it comes to energy? Do you need to do this activity you're about to get into? Or is it just a short-term type of pleasure? Now, if you got a short-term type of pleasure, you're now going to have long-term pain in the long run. And life, as I see it over time, really is a kind of interwoven pleasure and pain situation, right? For males, you obviously go through ups and downs. You have a short-term pleasure, but you're paying for it with all the releasing. If you sleep with a number of people, there's consequences for that. You may not think there is, but there's consequences with that. What happens then is your soul gets taken up little by little, every person you sleep with, and you become someone who cannot trust other people. People can't trust you. So how in the world are you going to develop any kind of relationship with that? And so as time goes on, the more indulgence you try to get for short-term pleasure, all of a sudden, it comes back to hurt you in the long run. Now, the opposite is also true. You don't want to have total no pleasure at all. I don't think God gave us that, gave us the life to not to have any pleasure. But there's pleasure internally as well as externally. And the balance is the key. I don't know if it was Mona Lisa. A lot of people talked about moderation. So when I talk about, 1,000 days we're coming up to pretty soon, I'm also talking about transmuting that and the joy and happiness that you're getting from the retention on your plan to the Lord, right? There's not an assumption that you should be releasing all the time. In fact, that wasn't the case for thousands of years. It's only been recently modern science, which is perceptional, talks about the fact that you should be releasing. That wasn't always the case. And we're not talking necessarily about intercourse and sex, which obviously you need to procreate and have children. We're talking about with pictures and the proclivity people have to do it multiple times a day, which is kind of draining them to the point where they have very little energy and they succumb to a lot of diseases and their body resistance is lower, all these things. They have less focus, they can't concentrate, they have very little energy with them, and people tell that. They could tell the difference in colors. Certainly, if you're looking at someone who's got high energy, it's going to be bright colors. Someone who has low energy is going to have dull colors, and you can tell that. And this is why the Hugh comment that Inner Tuition made was very, very perceptive, because our energy level is picked up by other people, and we see that all the time. We sense it, we see it. So who's to say that if I don't look at a person, I'm not looking at them, I'm looking at them, obviously I see the person by seeing aura around them. Who's to say you're not seeing that bright aura or that dull aura, depending on who they are? And this is why it's important to kind of adjust your thinking to say, okay, what am I getting out of this situation? Is this something I want to do for the short-term pleasure, and I'm gonna pay the price later on? Or is it something that I can say, okay, I'm going to hold off, I'm going to transmute that, accomplish something else, and now I'll get the joy and happiness that way, and not just go ahead and kind of deplete myself and become weaker and now suffer a lot of consequences of that. That's a key decision. And I think that's why, like my Chinese friend and a lot of people, we struggle with these type of things. We all struggle with these things. I mean, we're all told that life is pleasurable, and we should have. The Lord wants us to be abundant. The Lord wants us to be happy living in the life. But there's a certain level, there's a certain way to be happy. And committing sin and all these other things that people do is not going to get that person happy. In fact, down deep, I think their subconscious and the consciousness tells them that this is not something that is good. And so they create a lot of self-destruction at times. They become bitter, depressed, angry, and they destroy themselves because they realize down deep what they're doing is wrong. So whether it's a drug addiction, whether it's a alcohol addiction, whether it's a sex addiction, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same type of thing. It's that short-term pleasure, whether it's oral fixation, whether it's something that's physical. That's a short-term pleasure, but you're giving up a lot of pain in the long run because you may sacrifice a lot to do that. Now, if you're sacrificing on the other end of it and you're not doing things, you're trying to get a long-term pleasure. So that's where the key comes in. Are you taking the short-term pleasure and sacrifice and making your long-term pain grow? Or are you going to take a little bit of what I call pain and sacrifice now and not doing it and going ahead and having the happiness, the success, all those things you can get, being at full strain and not being sick and all those things in the long run? That's the question you have to ask, because that will go back to look at what your aura is. And your aura is something that draws people. And again, it's not just we're talking about female attraction, because I think, as David Jewett had said to us, you know, it's not about that. It really isn't. It's a flattering thing. Unless you're trying to find a partner, then it's something you can use to do that with. But the idea, guys, is that women will always be attracted to the aura you have. And it doesn't matter if you're 10 years different, 40 years difference, they will be attracted to that because they sense the aura. And whether they see God in you, whether they see something in you, they want to be near that. And they will stand next to you. They will be with you. They will follow you. This is a very apparent to me. It's been very apparent to me for the last 2 years. And you see by the comments all the time, lots of people feel the same way. They've had the same experiences. So it can't be something that's just a placebo or something that's fake. It's something there. Now, is it a combination of confidence? I'm sure you start building more confidence too, sure. But something started the whole thing. Something was the catalyst for all of this. So that's why we say, guys, that the key thing in life is to look at short-term compared to long-term pleasure. Money's the same way. Are you going to get a paycheck and spend most of it drinking or buying things you want, not saving money for the bills or investments or tithing? Well, then all of a sudden, now you're having a long-term pain. So a short-term pleasure, long-term pain, or short-term pain and sacrifice in a sense, and a long-term success. That's the key, and I think that's what the Lord, this is what God is talking about when he talks about sacrificing, celibacy, those things. You are trying to maintain a long-term sacrifice here, and you could have pain out of it, not necessarily physical pain, but just emotional, because you're not sleeping with people, you're not getting the benefits of that short-term pleasure like a lot of people do. But in the long run, you build trust, people trust you, and you can have a healthy relationship. It's how am a person who's sleeping with 100 people going to have a serious relationship with anybody? It's almost impossible, because the person has lived through lots of things. They're not necessarily excited about being with one person. They've been through over 100. How is that person going to even have a relationship with one person for any period of time? So that person's soul is lost, and they may not get it back because they may not A, realize their soul is lost, and B, they may not have God in their life, and it makes a big difference. All right, so great comment, very insightful. Inner Tuition, shout out to you, my friend. And the same thing with my friend from China. And I apologize, I don't know how to read Chinese, so I'm not sure what that is saying. But I appreciate your comments a great deal. And again, the decision you have to make in anything is, are you more interested in the short-term pleasure or the long-term pleasure of being happy and peaceful and having great success? It may take a while, just like investments take some time to grow. It's not going to be something overnight. But if you don't put money in, if you don't build a foundation, this is celibacy, this is retention, you're not going to be successful in the long run years from now. Especially when a lot of you guys are in your 20s now. By the time you're 50, you should save a lot of money to become millionaires and double in compound interest, all kinds of stuff you can do, investing, buildings, gold, all kinds of stuff like that. All right, my friends, enough for this morning. I hope you guys have a great Saturday morning. Enjoy the great day. There's some football games this weekend, so hopefully I see the quality of the NFL play better. I'm a little bit disappointed what I'm seeing the last year or so. Go back to, once again, foundational types of things there as well, like anything else. And maybe they'll kind of do that this weekend. All right, my friends, God bless you guys. Have a great day. And you know what I'm going to say. First of all, every day is a new day to a great warrior. And secondly, get ready, my friends. It's time to get to work and battle on!